What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are having a wonderful day today so far. Now guys, in today's video I want to go over the power rankings of every single star power in the game of Brawl Stars. So this should give you a better idea of which star powers are dominant and which ones aren't so hot in the given meta right now that we're in. Now with the information in today's video, you guys should be able to put into perspective which star powers you want to obtain. You don't want to get distracted by how cool a star power is or anything like that. You want to go on the skill alone, the power of each star power in the given meta. So we're going to be going over all those so that you guys know which ones are the best. So let's jump right into it. Alrighty guys, so I really wanted to make this video because it's super important to understand that we have a currency in Brawl Stars and it's called gold, and it's somewhat hard to come by in the present game that we're playing in. And when we're starting to invest our gold into a brawler because we want a specific star power, it's important to know which star power is actually worth the amount of gold that we're going to be paying for them. If you're thinking about spending all of your gold to max out a specific brawler because you want their star power and it turns out that star power isn't that effective in the game, then I think it's pretty wasteful. So make sure you're spending your hard-earned gold on star powers that are actually going to have a dramatic stamp on the given meta that we're playing in right now. So we're going to jump into the entire tier list now. Let's do it. Alright guys, so without any further ado, let's get into this list. So we're going to start off with the very worst star power and then end with the best. So starting off with the worst star power in the game, and that is El Primo. So I feel like El Primo's star power is incredibly underwhelming. If you take a look at it on paper, it actually seems pretty good. It has that burn element kind of like Crow's where it ticks them down over a duration of time. However, if you take a look at the damage that it does, 600 damage, it's just a tiny bit more than one of El Primo's basic attacks. And if you take a look at the mechanics of it, if you're jumping in with El Primo, getting that burn damage, it doesn't have that much place in it because you're going to be right on top of the brawler dealing damage anyway. The only real situation that would actually come into play is if you would jump in and then get away as fast as possible, find refuge, and wait for that poison or that tick burn damage to tick them down slowly. So in my opinion, I feel like El Primo's star power doesn't have that much use. So coming in at our 20th place is Daryl's star power, and again, it is a very underwhelming star power. It looks very good on paper, kind of like El Primo's, where he takes 80% reduced damage while he's in his super. So when you're going in your super, if you take a look at the mechanics behind it, he's going so fast in his super that it's hard for anyone to land any shots on Daryl while he's in that super. So it doesn't even come into play in most situations. So housing our 19th spot is one of the newest brawlers that just came to the game, and that is Penny. So whenever Penny's mortar dies, it launches out a bunch of shells sporadically everywhere. Now what I've noticed, again, a very underwhelming star power, is even if a brawler is standing right underneath the mortar, they might only get shot by maybe 1, 2 if you're lucky. So I feel like it doesn't come into play enough to deal a substantial amount of damage to any of the brawlers that are actually in the vicinity. It might deal a little bit, and it might just be another thing that they have to worry about for a split second, but it just doesn't have a whole lot of impact in game. So moving on to the 18th spot, and that is Brack's star power. So whenever Brack fires his rocket, where it explodes, it leaves a small patch of fire that when an enemy unit runs through it, they take a little bit of damage. Now I have 2 gripes with Brack's star power. One, the patch is super small and it's very easy to walk around or avoid the enemy unit for them to avoid. 2, it doesn't do a whole lot of damage. It does 240 damage per second. Now when you're in it, it's very easy to get out of it. You're not like trapped in it or anything, so the second thing really doesn't matter. Most of the time you're only going to take 1 tick of damage from that fire, and if it only does 240 damage, that's a 10th of even the weakest of brawlers in the entire game. So in my opinion, it just doesn't do enough. So rounding the list to 17, and it breaks my heart that this brawler made it this low on the list in anything, and that is Poco. So Poco's star power seems pretty good. It has a healing element to it, which I love. I love healing in the game of Brawl Stars. However, it sacrifices your basic attack to heal up a brawler for 400 damage. It just doesn't do a whole lot of healing in my opinion. 400 isn't that much. It might be good in certain situations where it's like desperate, maybe in gem grabs, someone might be retreating and they're getting fired upon. You can dish out all of your basic attacks to heal them up. However, it doesn't really come into play a whole lot. The only time I see it come into play is by accident, when you're shooting at the enemy brawlers and your teammates are caught in the wave as well, getting the heals while you're dishing out damage to the enemy team. Next on the list is 16, and that is Bull's star power. So this one is actually really cool and I love this one, but it's just not that crazy good because it doesn't come into play a whole lot. So whenever Bull falls below 40% health, he is enraged and he double doubles his attack speed. So it sounds really cool. However, when you're at 40% health, most of the time you're in a desperate situation and you're trying to get away. I feel like the only times this really comes into play is in game modes like boss fight, when you're the boss and you're at that 40% health at a longer duration, so you can really reap the benefits of the double reload speed. But other than that, in game, I feel like it really doesn't come into play. So moving on to number 15, it's the other newest brawler that just came to the game, and that is Frank. So I desperately wanted Frank to be a bit higher on the list. However, I found several other star powers in the game that are much more useful than Frank. So whenever an enemy unit dies, it drops a purple skull, much like Mortis's star power, and that's the reason I really want it to be a little bit better. However, it's the reverse of Mortis. Whenever he picks up the skull, he gains an increase in 30% damage for 10 seconds. Now this sounds really good on paper. Because he does a whole lot of damage, it's increased that much more. But if you take a look at it, Frank can 3-shot a lot of the weaker brawlers and 4 to 5-shot any of the other brawlers. So I feel like Frank already does a substantial amount of damage that those purple skulls aren't desperately needed, if you guys get what I'm saying. So moving on to number 14, and that houses Nita's star power. So it reads, Nita recovers 300 health whenever her bear hits an enemy. When Nita deals damage, her bear regenerates 300 health. Whenever the bear comes in, it's an immediate target. A lot of people want to take care of it as fast as possible, so Nita never really reaps the benefits of that health regen whenever the bear swipes against the enemies. And the bear is very slow, so it never really catches up to the brawlers unless they have him pinned. Also, vice versa, whenever Nita attacks an enemy unit, the bear regenerates 300 health. So if you land 3 of your basic attacks, the bear is only going to regenerate 900 health, which is very minuscule compared to his total amount of health. So moving on to number 13, and that is one of the lobbers, and it is Dyna Mike. So I feel like Dyna Mike's star power is incredibly unique, and it can get you out of some really tight situations. Say if a Mortis is closing in on you, or a bull or a shotgunner take you out very quickly, you can get away, hop over a wall, and get to safety, and then start peppering them with your Dyna Mike. So I feel like Dyna Mike's star power can be very useful, though it's not that crazy standoffish, and it's very hard to use in certain situations too. So I feel like it's in the middle of the pack. It definitely deserves to be in the middle of the pack because it has utility, but it can be hard to use. So moving on to number 12, and that's with my girl Pam. So I really like Pam's star power, and I wish it was a little bit higher up on the list because it has that healing element. It just clicks with me. So whenever Pam shoots an enemy brawler, she heals up the brawlers within her vicinity and herself 30 HP. And granted, she shoots off a lot of shots, so if you can land a bunch of them, you can get a lot of healing going. Plus, if you have her turret down, you can have a massive amount of healing with the star power and the healing turret. So I feel like it's very good, but it can be a little bit underwhelming because it's only 30 HP. Also, if you're playing her in the game mode that she's really in and that she clicks in, which is gem grab, she doesn't get that a whole lot because in gem grab you don't want to be grouped up together that much. So the benefits from the star power doesn't really come into play a whole lot, which makes it a little bit low on the list. Next is number 11, and it's the other lobber, Barley. So Barley's star power is whenever he tosses out one of his bottles, he heals himself up for 200 HP. So this comes into play a lot and it's very useful. So whenever you're playing with Barley, most of the time you don't want to stop attacking. Maybe in gem grab you want to keep the other player's position where they are. You want to keep them back. So when you can heal up progressively while you're tossing out your bottles, it comes into play a lot. Now the only reason Barley is not a little bit higher on the list is because there are other star powers that are a bit better than his. So I feel like Barley's star power is one that you would want to go for. It's definitely good in my book. So next, moving on to number 10, and that is Tara's star power. So I really like this one a lot. Whenever the super comes into play, it sucks them in, it explodes, and it spawns a shadow creature, a shadow version of Tara. So the good thing about this is that it's a spawnable. That's why she makes it very high on the list. Basically, any spawnable forces the enemy team to deal with it, delaying them for a short duration. Now, when you take a look at the shadow, it has fairly low health and it's very fast. So it gets taken out very quickly because it's right up in their face and it has low health. So they take it out almost immediately. However, with the spawnable, it forces them to deal with it. So it gives you a few extra seconds to make a push, get into position, or anything like that. So I feel like Tara's star power is one that you can invest in. So next on the list is number 9, and that is Piper's star power. Now Piper gains an extra 400 damage whenever she's in the bushes. Now this comes into play on several different game modes and several different maps. Basically any map that there's a lot of bushes. So I feel like this is a really good star power. It's very clean cut, it's a very simple star power, but it helps Piper out a lot. So next on the list is number 8, and that is Crow's star power. So whenever Crow deals damage to an enemy unit and they are poisoned, that poison causes them to deal 10% less damage to your entire team. So I feel like this star power is definitely a very good one because it benefits your entire team. 10% isn't a whole lot of a damage reduction. However, if you're taking a look at maybe some of the higher damage dealers like Piper or the shotgunners, that's a substantial amount of damage that's being taken away because of that poison is taking them down. So I feel like this is a star power you should definitely go for as well. So next on the list is number 7, and if you guys haven't noticed yet, we're getting into the realm of star powers that I would recommend anyone to get. So these star powers are very, very good. So number 7 is Shelly's star power. So Shelly, the introduction brawler. So it's a very clean cut one, a very basic one. Whenever she uses her super, the other brawler takes a reduction in their movement speed. Now guys, mobility is incredibly important to Brawl Stars, and if you have an element to a character that reduces or manipulates the movement speed on another brawler, that is incredibly good. So rounding the corner to number 6, and that is Colts star power. So another star power that manipulates movement speed in the favor of the brawler instead of the enemy team. So this is a really good star power because it benefits you at all times. Now the movement speed isn't a crazy amount. You're still a little bit slower than Mortis and Crow. However, the movement speed is so important. It can help you line up shots a little bit easier because when you're strafing and shooting, that can come into a big play. And circling back to the thing that mobility and movement speed is incredibly important in Brawl Stars, allows Colt to definitely be high up on this tier list. So we are finally breaching the top 5 best star powers in all of Brawl Stars. Number 5 is your boy Ricochet. So I feel like Ricochet star power is incredibly good because it has usage on every single map, every single game mode. Whenever you're playing Rico, you can use his star power. So basically what it is whenever you shoot one of your shots off a wall, it has increased damage to that shot. Now when you're playing with Ricochet, it's hard not to land your Ricochet shots. Most of the time you're going to be able to reap the benefits of your star power whenever you're playing him. So I feel like Ricochet definitely deserves to be in the top 5 best star powers in this game. So moving on to number 4, and my personal favorite is Mortis. Mortis's star power is the most unique star power in the entire game. Basically, whenever an enemy brawler is defeated, they drop a green skull, which allows you to heal up 1000 HP when you pick it up. Now, since Mortis has a healing element already with his super, he has 2 healing elements when you have his star power unlocked. This allows you to be a little bit more aggressive than you would normally if you don't have a star power, which allows you to do several more things with Mortis in game. So I feel like Mortis definitely super high up on the list. His star power is definitely worth getting. So rounding the corner to our top 3, our third best star power in the entire game is none other than Jesse's. So Jesse's star power is broken, guys. What makes Jessie so good as a character in general is her turret. When you place her turret in a really hard to get spot, it makes the other brawlers frantically try to get that turret and destroy it. Now the thing that makes Jesse's star power so good is that it allows you to keep your turret alive with your basic attack. So whenever you shoot your basic attack at your turret, it heals it up for 800 health. Now wait, there's another element that makes it even more broken. So when you shoot your shot at your turret, it heals it up and it ricochets off and hits the enemy units that are close by. So I feel like Jesse's star power is definitely one that you should be looking into getting. So our second best star power in the entire game, and in my eyes so broken, is Spike's star power. It's so good. The thing that makes Spike somewhat of a poorer brawler, if you're taking a look at his weaknesses, is his health. He has very low health. His damage is there. He does incredible amounts of damage. However, his star power is whenever you use his super on himself, when you're in the cactus radius, he heals himself for 500 HP every single second. Now this can be incredibly good for really sticky situations. When you're in a big fight, you can have that healing going on, damaging the other units that are in the vicinity, and you can dish out the damage. I feel like Spike's star power is just absolutely broken, and if you guys are really wanting to get a star power and you have Spike, try to focus on getting Spikes. So the moment you've all been waiting for, the best star power in the entire game, and that is Bo's star power. Now where do I start on Bo's star power? It is so broken. Now in certain situations, Bo's star power doesn't come into play. Then you can just use Bo as he's meant to be used. However, to give credence to how good Bo's star power is, if you have team comps that are revolving around Bo on certain maps, that you need to have a Bo on that map in order to win or be equivalent with the other team if they have a Bo, that's how you know a star power is broken. Just because of the star power, a team comp is revolving around him. If you take a look at him on Snake Prairie, absolutely broken. If you have a star power Bo on your team and they don't have a Bo, you will win hands down. The vision is just so important on bush heavy maps, and that's why Bo's star power is the best in the game by far. So guys, that is the rankings of every single star power in the entire game. Let me know what you guys thought of my rankings. If you would change anything, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. It was a lot of information spat at you you, but it's important to know the top 5, or I should say top like 8 or 9, are always going to be really solid options to get with your hard-earned gold. So guys, again, if you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like on it, and with that being said, make sure to keep having fun with Brawl Stars, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.